The 3DS has a very interesting sales history. I think it's a fairly nice looking system. The 3DS sold just under 80 million units, which was around half as much as the Nintendo DS, and nearly the same as what the DS's predecessor, the Game Boy Advance, sold. The 3DS struggled with sales at the start, to the extent at the end of the first financial year, its sales were below expectations, and after another quarter, the sales slowed down even more. So the 3DS was given a price cut of around $80 American, and along with some great exclusives, it helped the 3DS become a commercial success. One of the exclusives that helped turn things around for the 3DS was Super Mario 3D Land.
I still love playing this game today. Its level designs are so fun. It's 3D, but has more of a focus on speed rather than the sandbox style that Mario 64 has. And while it doesn't have the wackiness of Super Mario Galaxy or Super Mario Odyssey, like I said, the level designs are just so fun. They are colourful, they are still zany and creative enough, and the controls are very tight. The game still has a fair bit of exploration without it being very sandbox, but I like how the level designs let the platforming flow. You're constantly moving at speed, so like I said, there's a flow to the gameplay. The levels use lots of bright colours, and you're searching for enough stars so you can unlock boss battle. And the Tanuki suit is back, which is one of my favourite power-ups.
Another exclusive that helped change the fate of the 3DS was Fire Emblem Awakening. And interestingly, before Fire Emblem Awakening was released, there was doubts as to the future of the Fire Emblem series in the West, because the previous Fire Emblem game sold poorly in the West. But Fire Emblem Awakening not only helped change the fortunes of the 3DS, it saved the Fire Emblem series in the West.
Fire Emblem Awakening is still my favourite Fire Emblem game. I like it even more than Fire Emblem Three Houses. It has very tactical turn-based strategy. The permadeath adds a lot of intensity because the character dies. It's emotionally and strategically crippling. For accessibility, you can turn off permadeath if you want. The story has a fair bit going on in it, and I like the characters, and I like how you have multiple generations of characters and you make children. So yeah, in the game you can find someone to fall in love with and get married and have children, and the characters have personalities and charm. The anime visuals are nice, the story scenes are enjoyable, the characters are likable, the turn-based strategy is very deep. It'll make you think a lot each turn, and if you play permadeath on, there'll be a lot of intensity as each turn one of your party members can die, and like I said, it can be emotionally crippling if they do, so you don't want it to happen.
Another great exclusive was Ocarina of Time, and this is actually a remake of Ocarina of Time because it was built from the ground up and it fixed many of the issues with Ocarina of Time and made one of the best action-adventure games of all time even better.
The improvements Ocarina of Time 3D makes includes a smoother frame rate, and using the inventory is much easier, and the graphics are brighter and colourful, although some people say they like the darker style of the original Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time has a huge amount of nostalgia because it's revolutionised 3D action-adventure gameplay, such as the way it implemented a lock-on system, a block button, and a button for rolling, and the way you could set up and explore a proper 3D world, whereas the generation before was 16 and was mostly 2D or 2.5D. Either way, it was a great update and a great addition to the library.
Another title that was released early in the 3DS's lifespan that received praise was Resident Evil Revelations, because at the time, the Resident Evil series reputation had taken a bit of a hit after Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, but RE Revelations brought back the more survivor horror element while still having some fun action gameplay.
What I mean by it brings back the survivor horror element is there's many sections in the game where you have limited ammo and you have to make every bullet count, and sections you have to slowly traverse through areas and manage your health. And there's also other gameplay segments where there's full-on action and you have lots of ammo and you're killing large numbers of mutants. It was not a bad return to form for the Resident Evil series, especially for a handheld. Kirby Triple Deluxe is another game I own digitally. As you can see, it's very colourful and charming like other Kirby games. It has great new abilities, and it isn't quite as easy as many of the other Kirby games. There is some challenge later on in the game. The 3D is used very well, especially with the way things in the backgrounds can affect what's happening at the front. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same Kirby that you've experienced over the years. You suck up enemies and you absorb their abilities and you can float across the screen if you want. Very colourful. The main game has two other smaller games included as well. It was another delightful experience for 3DS owners. I like how the game is set in both a fictional kingdom that is medieval and a modern version of Tokyo that has been overrun by demons. The story is creative and there's atmosphere, and the turn-based strategy is very deep as usual, and you can recruit demons. I also like how the main characters aren't high school students, unlike in Nocturne, Persona, and Devil Survivor. Story is very dark, like Shin Megami Tensei games usually are. Like many SMT games, winning means you need to use a fair bit of strategy during the turn-based combat. You can't just rely on level grinding. It was a very addictive experience. The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds takes what made A Link to the Past great, but modernizes it and adds more depth to the gameplay and puzzles. It was one of the best action-adventure games of the 8th gen, but at the time of its release, home consoles were at the peak of their popularity. It's a shame more people haven't played this game because it has the great world design and charm and high level of playability that A Link to the Past has, without having to rely on open world things and other things like making your weapons break to make you use more different weapons. A Link to the Past is about quality over quantity. If you enjoyed A Link to the Past, you should play this game. Bravely Default was a great throwback to classic 8-bit and 16-bit JRPGs, with a world map, town exploration, turn-based strategy. It feels like a classic Final Fantasy or Dragon Warrior game. Even though it wasn't developed by Square Enix, it was published by Square Enix, and bringing it to the 3DS was a great idea because many 3DS owners still appreciated a more simple type of gameplay, charm, not worrying just about graphics, turn-based. I just wanted things like turn-based strategy, charm, and the art style for the game is beautiful, and the still eccentric storytelling that you'll experience with many JRPGs. Its turn-based battle system has a lot of depth to it, especially since you can choose between Brave or Default during combat, and as the name suggests, Brave makes your characters do more powerful attacks but has risks, and Default allows you to perform more commands but your characters will do less damage. There's a great job customization system as well. Another level 5 game, and one that's colourful and plays like a visual novel puzzle game. If Sherlock Holmes was an archaeologist, he would be Professor Layton. The game is very accessible because you don't have to solve all the puzzles to beat the game. The game is mostly about the story and its presentation. As you can see, the 3DS had lots of colourful and very charming and appealing games. Attack of the Friday Monsters is another 3DS exclusive developed by Level 5 that has a Studio Ghibli influence. It's got a very lovely art style. It's an adventure game. The family has just moved to a town and you just basically go around the town participating in card battles, and you see superheroes battling monsters every Friday. It's up to you to interpret, is it real or not. It's a charming and lovely game that has a feeling of innocence. It just lets you relax and forget about your problems, makes you feel like a kid again. The story is set in the 1970s in Japan, which is nice. I'll let you watch a bit more.
こうして人類の歴史に刻まれたあの伝説の金曜日が始まったのです。
Even though it had already been released on the PlayStation 2, Tales of the Abyss was a great portable JRPG for the 3DS. It was also released fairly early in the 3DS's lifespan, and it was good. It was getting some third-party support. The 3DS was also backwards compatible with DS games, so that was another great feature. I'm not going to lie, I liked the PlayStation Vita a little bit more than the 3DS, but the Vita sold only something like 13 million units compared to the 3DS's nearly 80 million units sold, because the best Vita games such as Final Fantasy X, Persona 4, Golden, Trails of Cold Steel 2 were also available on other systems, and the exclusives such as Tearaway and Gravity Rush, while being great games on their own, weren't as marketable as the first-party games that the 3DS had. Another thing I like about the 3DS is its keep it simple, stupid design. Because the Vita, you needed to purchase memory cards, which were expensive. And while the Vita, it was obviously more powerful, it was more expensive. And sure, the Vita allowed you to access your PSN account and play PlayStation 1 classics on the Vita, and allowed you to earn trophies for games. People like how the 3DS has great new exclusives, and its cheaper price points meant parents saw it more appealing for children, and you had genuine exclusives. Earlier, I mentioned how Vita games weren't as marketable. What I mean by that is, well, Uncharted Golden Abyss, many people say as great as a technical accomplishment it was, they'll rather play an Uncharted game on a big screen. And Gravity Rush doesn't appeal to all ages, despite it being a great and unique game. And Tearaway, it's a great 3D platformer, but it lacked the marketability of Mario, because Mario's an established, iconic character. Maybe if Sony had used Jak, like given us a Jak 3D platformer, which many people had been asking for, because Daxter for the PlayStation Portable was a 3D platformer that sold well, because Jak and Daxter are already well-established characters. But going back to the 3DS, like I said, Nintendo just kept things simple. It was a handheld with a great library of games, many of them exclusives to the 3DS system. And once the system went down in price and became more affordable, it was just the more appealing product to consumers. Anyways, I'll wrap up this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care.